But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Sorry about that, guys. Welcome to the World Blockchain Roundtable. It's episode 40. Hosts for today are Greg and me. We do hear that Sean is on his way. He had something with a power issue, so hopefully he pops up. In the meantime, I think, Greg, you and I should probably get as much conspiracy theory talk in as possible, and he goes full serious when he gets here, right? So hopefully he makes it here. Quick update on the distribution of lot from last week. That every host will receive 133 and every topic contributor 33 lot. I think we got through every single question, didn't we? That was actually the show. You should go watch it. The ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes in the World Blockchain Roundtable layer. That's how we decide all of everything that we do here. There is so the March theme selection is resolved. Top 5, I think. I'd have gone over this elsewhere, but the top 5 were blockchain adding to our quality of life, which is this week. Entertainment next week. I think it's right. Yeah. Layer 2, zero knowledge roll-up solutions the week after. Decentralized blockchain social media platforms the week after that. And the 5th week, because there are 5 weeks in March this year, is future NFT use cases. That one's gonna be pretty cool, I think, actually. So really good lineup. As a reminder, if your theme is used, you will also receive lot based upon the total views. I can't remember what the formula is, but I think it's similar. I can't. There's a fraction of one of the totals. So anyway, you will get rewarded, which you weren't before. So I think that's happening this week. Maybe it happened last week, first time. Anyway, so current events.
Real quick, just have to say, big shout out to our friend Mladen. Did I say your name correctly? In Serbia, who just said good morning from there. That's pretty cool. Glad to have you on.
I've had a lot of Serbian friends. And what is the drink? The Serbian, it's a plum brandy.
I do love that plum brandy, man.
That stuff is good.
I want to try it.
Oh, it's good.
Especially if you get the Serbian brandy that I've been wanting to send you.
The Serbian brandy. I had a friend, actually he was an intern that worked for us in school, and when he came back from Serbia, he was he brought me this bottle, this Slivovic, something like this. I can't remember how you pronounce it. Stuff's amazing. Anyway, okay, it's hard. I can't get it up here in the Pacific Northwest. Doesn't exist. They told me, go to a Serbian church or something. I don't know where to go. And somebody on DIN told me, but they thought I was in Washington, D.C., not Washington State. I was like, Washington, you can get it over there. But anyway, all right. So current events. What do we want to talk about? There's too much going on.
Oh, there's an insane amount going on. You can almost throw a dart in any direction.
Yep.
I think a lot of current events have to do with the topic of the day.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's starting to become a lot more apparent that any kind of basic quality of life is going to necessitate this as events seem to become more volatilely managed, I guess, if you want to be charitable, by people who seem to be not doing a very good job managing the world right now.
Yeah. I want to say some, terrible things that probably people will hate. But over the past, 48 hours, I've really been stepping back from what's been foonsped. Electricity went out. I just woke up. My alarms go off.
I am now going to be frantically searching Amazon for a foon so I can sped myself.
But there's so many. Like there is a side that Russia has, and then everyone starts to get really nervous. And it's like Putin's wrong and terrible, and this is the wrong thing to do, and it's not going to do. But first off, people are starting to see the terrible things that our own government has done, and how there is a double standard. That with Western, UK and Western, European countries, and especially the United States, we do this kind of shit because it's okay for us, and it's not okay for Russia or for China. And then it's like you can't. It's like everything else. It's us versus them. There's no nuance. There's no talking about it. It's just either you're here or you're against us.
And for me, the people that I want to be with are the individuals who are in the Ukraine and also in Russia, just regular folks walking down the street whose economy is crashing literally right now because a bunch of fucking big swinging dicks from the I guess the different sides of the room of Davos basically are having a tiff. Like, I'm sorry, but there are a lot of victims to this, and a lot of them are Russian.
Yeah, the bank runs, the money is being decimated, and I think that's also I think it's a big part of why the crypto market hasn't just continued to crash. It's because people are pulling their cash and putting it into crypto, and
it blows my mind. It would even
metals, even if you're an old folk who doesn't really understand stuff. If there's no gold and silver for you to put your money into, and you're going to try this. This is, I think, going to push adoption because people who really wouldn't have, it's like, I don't know what else to do. There is no gold. There is no silver.
Well, I will tell you, you've talked about the normies and how they, the NFTs have been such a boon to people understanding. You think about this. The thing that I'm seeing Canadian banks freezing accounts and essentially stealing money from people that was donated for a cause they believed in. And then you look at the same thing happening over there where, if you're Russian, screw you. I don't care if you're an individual. I don't even care if you support the Ukrainians. You still can't have your money.
And the attitude is, hey, man, if you don't like it, you go fight your government, get arrested, and die.
But these are people, fuck. Why do we have to act like all of a sudden it's the goddamn feudal society?
For the past 20 years, Greg, that's what everyone's been trained to do.
Well, the weird thing is, this is human nature, especially since at least 19th century has been that there are controlling forces. None of us even know who the hell they are, and they basically at the top levels make agreements. It's like the fact that all the royals were back then. It mattered that they were all related. They were cousins and whatever else, right?
But it also barely feels like a contentious thing to say that we instantly either backslid to like pre-1300s era political alignments, or nothing ever really changed and it's all been an illusion. And I prefer to believe that it's not something that we've been duped by thus far.
That's the thing.
This old conspiracy that we never won the war and gained independence, that it was all kind of a sham. And that, we still pay so much to Britain, and we still really have, allegiance to that system and to the Queen and blah, blah, blah. And it's always
individual servitude to power is still a thing.
But it's always been kind of crazy. But to see America change within less than 100 years to basically, there's no difference between the United States and Europe. There's everything's the same.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, Europe has kind of been Americanized. If you really were to put on your tinfoil hat and think there was some major plan, then that's the only way that it all makes sense.
Well, there's one way it could make sense besides that too. That's even easier to believe, and it's that all of the people in charge have been leading us down the same stupid road because they all think they're smarter than they are.
Yes, that's what it is, and that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get to. That nothing's changed. The same bloodlines that wanted World War I to happen, that cold. Millions of people died, right? And it was, if you read any of the histories, it was so absurd to them in the day that this is the new way of warfare. That's why it was such a great effect culturally. And yet, it's set up for World War II. It's set, and the difference today is, frankly, the biggest difference. There are a lot of differences. Is technology, and there's good and bad in that, because you can see on Twitter, you can see everywhere where, like, I mentioned this to Greg before we turned on, that people just change their avatar. Oh, I support the thing, right? Yeah, I support. I'm a good person. Everything in that media that is at the shallow level is about. I'm just projecting that I'm not a bad person. That's all it is.
And me changing nothing about how I go through my day is totally absolved, because I'm tapping all caps characters with a different emoji after my name.
Yes. And the bad part, so that's the bad part of the technology, that people are easily manipulated. But guess what? They've always been easily manipulated. Before, it was just you got the one paper in your town, and guess what? They're going to be saying the thing. It's like, you need to do this because they're evil. That's what it is. And yet the good side is that we can go and we can find info that we couldn't before. And that's an internet thing. Well, I don't think we've tapped into what blockchain can do there. But the wake-up call of this is Crete on steroids. When I've talked about what happened in Crete, and Bitcoin jumped up to like $30 or whatever it was, that this is the wake-up there, where normal people realize, oh, that's what Bitcoin's about. It's not about this number. I was like, oh, it's just it's stupid.
The value prop was always this is state censorship proof.
Well, I think Canada was like one of the biggest wake up calls, because it was Canada, and I've said this a million times. Mm-hmm. Even if it was the United States, it wouldn't be the same. Canada is like literally the perfect country. It's huge. It's America light.
Have you ever broken a bone in Canada?
No.
What's
it's like
is there a story behind that?
They're so polite. Yeah. So it's like the perfect country for this totalitarian shit to happen as quick as it did. And then everyone knows, and everyone will admit that the financial system is weaponized, and that countries hurt each other.
Well,
and then that secondary thing where you say, oh, well, like Greg was saying, people are hurt too, but it's really just countries. But this was the first time where we saw that it was direct. It wasn't against any country. It was right to the people. And that scared the shit out of everybody.
Well, I mean, that's happened plenty in the U.S. too. Politically, if you are on the politically on the wrong side, screw you. You're going to get your And I will tell you, crypto people, I've had several personal and business bank accounts turned off just because I use Coinbase. Right?
Crypto people have had that done. Yeah. But this was totally different. The police weren't rounding people up. They weren't clubbing people. They were just walking around to, Starbucks windows and taking pictures. And that's it. They're done. And facial recognition finds out who they are, and their bank accounts are frozen.
Right. Like, literally, a good analogy is like, have you ever had your favorite crowdfunding campaign shut down? It's like that, only it's your bank account if you happen to send money to that.
And that stuff was so blatantly illegal that we took $10 million, and we're a private company. Now we're not going to do what we said with your money. We've made $2 or $3 million. We'll keep the money we made. We'll just decide who else to give it to.
Right. But the cool thing about
because we're virtuous, and this thing, even though we're the entire platform is made to raise money for charitable causes, where somebody or something needs money, and the fact is it's the stupidest thing in the world in this day that is the go-to, that thing even freaking exists if Bitcoin is here and other crypto. Right. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense.
Every time it happened with GoFundMe and Patreon, it was instant. I mean, that day. There was another thing, you shift to crypto.
Well, and the same office literally turned around and started executing it against individuals in Russia.
I will tell you, I hadn't thought about it much back when I was still, I kind of still drank the Kool-Aid way back. And I had a friend tell me, it's like, well, I mean, they they're, and this is obvious, right? Especially nowadays, it's obvious that the reason that the government listening into every phone, which we now know. Back then, it was considered conspiracy theory. I was like, no, they don't do that.
Right.
It's like everybody knows they do now, right? And that they store everything. And if you have something encrypted, obviously they're going to definitely store it and flag it. And when they can break the encryption, or if they ever need to put the processing power into it, they will. And why does that exist? It exists solely so that you can have a shadow totalitarian state selectively applied when you need it. And that's what this is. And anybody who thinks is like, oh no, we don't want that Chinese social credit system. It's like, you already have it. It's applied different, it's culturally different.
Invisible, running in the background. You won't notice it until it's turned on you.
Yeah, because if they don't want you to be able to pay,
it's like having an uncle in the mob. I have Italian family, so like you don't talk about it, but everybody knows, and you kind of wink and mention it, and that's why. Well, you don't talk about your Christmas present from Uncle Leo.
That's why nobody likes to watch the ending to Godfather 3 at the family get-togethers. It's
yeah.
So I had a cousin, and his finger was missing a finger. And I asked, hey, what happened to your finger? And everyone in the room froze because you don't ask, what happened to us because it got shot off because he's a mobster. So it's just like that. The shadow government, and I realized this was one of the biggest moments when I was a kid. And I remember Area 51, and it bothers me so much that people aren't matter about that. But the government constantly said that it wasn't there. But it also ruined people's lives.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like
scientists that came out. I mean, they lost their careers. They were branded as insane. And then when finally it was admitted, everyone was like, nah, we know it. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
And I was a child, and I was like, how is this not a big deal? Why aren't people angry?
And that's why getting away from our origin is bad. I mean, the origin of at least this country, constitutional, the right. There were several things that it's like, well, why'd they build DC like that? I don't know. But either way, it's just this whole thing that the bigger we get, the harder it is to even.
Yeah, and the more we notice it too. I think the trick is like. Yeah, okay, when you had control of all the information channels and you could make sure that the story that you wanted told was the only one that got heard. That's we talk about it a lot on the internet. The fact that there's sort of this attempt to narrow the viewpoints to just a limited subset of approved, right? And I think one of the things that proves out the fact that the internet has done some good and that crypto's enhancing it, is that we are still talking about it. It's not one single narrative, and they can't have it that way no matter how much they like it. And the longer it goes on, the more people see the ones that are competing and make their own judgments as to which one's true. And as it turns out, so far we've done nothing but switch the fucking cups and tell a different set of lies towards roughly the same end. And it's I mean they're still trying it. They're
also,
doing it right now.
To put out the narrative that is best for you. With Zelensky, I didn't know that he shut down all the news stations that ever said anything negative against him. I didn't know he arrested the whole political party that came in second. That was his opposition. I mean, he's done like some crazy, tyrannical stuff, but he's this loving, smiling face, dude that, I wish I was gay just so I could make out with him. It's ridiculous.
I don't know enough about him, right? I haven't followed it, but I do. Like, I've seen some stuff. What's this deal with the shelling of Donbass? It's like, that's not something I'd ever heard of. And yet
I didn't know any of that.
Talks about it. I'm like, oh, okay.
There's a lot of really interesting history in that area of, to do with the specific peoples that have lived there for freaking ever. And, it goes back to like if you're being completely open about how much culture remains, it goes back to pre-Bolshevik Revolution era. There's so much there that we have no fuck idea what we're talking about.
Blood feud stuff that, I don't know anything about. And it's way more complex than anything the media is going to just say, good and bad. And here's the thing.
The surface of Ukraine. You will.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too.
Hurt your soul, man.
Here's the thing too. It's odd that it is Ukraine, given. I'm not going to get into the details or the politics or anything else.
There's lots of details.
But the fact that I've heard, I think probably the best description I had that I've seen of it is like, that's pretty fitting. Is that it's a nation state money laundering machine, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's if you need to launder in billions of dollars, that's where you go, right? That's what's so crazy to me. And so,
well, the craziest thing to me about all of it is this. And maybe this is one of those like you're not supposed to touch it subject areas, but I don't know if anybody remembers this, or am I just remembering something that didn't actually happen? But wasn't there a revolution in the Ukraine circa 2014?
I think it was the orange. There's a color. One of the first color, if either the first or the first I knew about, color revolutions, which I still don't entirely understand.
But, well, I mean, what did that actually achieve? What happened at that point?
Well,
how much does that have to do with what's happening today?
Tell me if I'm right here, because this is at least my and apologies for any glossing over anything, but that there was a pro-Russian leadership that came into power, whether by election or otherwise, I don't know. That there was a lot of the blood feud stuff that went on, and they were expelled in some way via this Orange Revolution. And if I remember right, the one thing that was most descriptive of what that meant was that they essentially they got everybody, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to protest. And then they put some of their own people up to actually shoot some of the protesters to foment a whole bunch of, and I don't know what's true and what's not, but that's at least the high level that I understand. It wasn't just, filtered through media.
Yeah. Okay.
And that caused.
If I just throw out one word, and I will steer clear of the subject for now because this is a rabbit hole. But this just strikes me as sort of Mossadegh Part 2. Just maybe that's what happened. Maybe it's not. It hits me that way.
Something I find really interesting, in talking about how the United States does so many things that we can do with impunity, and then say that Russia or China or whoever is terrible for doing them. Is Russia did not want Ukraine to join NATO because that could move nuclear weapons into their front yard, right there. And what is the difference between what they did and what Kennedy did about Cuba?
Yeah, they don't have a Monroe Doctrine. That's the only difference.
The
literally,
the obvious answer is that there isn't really a whole lot of
nuclear war
difference, right?
Yeah.
With a couple of nuances, like the fact that we've had a sort of an expansionist policy since the East and West reunited, and we have basically continually said that we will no longer have an expansionist policy when it comes to NATO, and we continue to.
I will tell you, I never understood why.
You can find 10-year-old quotes saying this will cause war if we do this.
Yeah, it was always odd to me that we retain. In fact, and this is for somebody who grew up through the Cold War, right? So I was understanding of things in the 80s. I lived in Kansas at the time when, if you remember that show that the day after.
They filmed it in.
And
right?
I knew people that were in it from when they were little kids, that they were in some of the scenes and stuff. And my partner. I can't remember who it was, but there were some pretty famous people that had actually dined in the place that was our print shop because it was their family house at the time. And so they were like, I can't remember if it was Gregory Peck or if it was, it was like, holy crap, really? Anyway, I grew up in that whole thing, and it's really a bizarre thing because the left used to make any excuse possible for the Russians, right? And it's like, oh, no, they're not, they're just like us. There's a Sting song, right? They're just like us. They love their kids too. It's like, they're trying to do that. And I'm like, okay, that's
honestly a fair point.
But it's so odd now that the left hates them. And it's as if you go back in time and they were the other side. And it's like, what?
Right, no, it's really weird.
They're not even like anything near the issue they were back then. Anyway, and you want to know about hypocrisy. and the fact that, oh, we can do this, but you can't. The funniest thing is at the level of the citizenry, that the very same week that our heads of state in this country talk about getting rid of all of our owned AR-15s, that they are promoting the Ukrainians sending out for the very reason to their citizens. It's just freaking hilarious. It's like, and I don't think it's necessarily, it is hypocrisy, but it makes good sense, basically, because it's like, well, obviously,
two memes that I've loved this last week. It's why do you need an AR-15 with 20 round clip? It's all over the TV. And the other one is, oh no, Russia's invaded Ukraine. Quick, all the celebrities need to sing Imagine and fix this right away.
That one, if you say that one too many times, probably will come true.
I think the meme beat them to it, so hopefully they'll see it's ridiculous.
Well, here's rooting for that to happen, just because I want to see how absurd.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot. And by the way, so we can go now into speculation of the topic, which, in my opinion, if it doesn't come up in any of the questions, and hopefully it does, there are several things that blockchain can do to help, because much like the AR-15 being a weapon that even the government has to contend with. Okay, we can't do what other countries could, because and just like I think Switzerland and the US, that you can't invade. That you can't invade because everybody has a weapon. The whole Japanese behind every blade of grass in America, right? So crypto is the information form of that. It's a weapon or a defense form that the central powers have to contend with. You think about and that's what's interesting to me with this Ukrainian thing. And I'm wondering what's going to happen with Russia, and we don't know yet. You imagine, essentially the West is using, and you do this in war, you use everything at your disposal. Money is one of them, flow of money, things like this, the markets.
Right.
What if, and I'm not saying they did, but what if,
no, they did,
knowing that they're going to invade, and knowing that they're going to get sanctions, and knowing that they're going to have, now we already know that they had set up that they're going to continue trade with China. You're going to have different flows of fertilizer, of oil, and gas and things like this. But what if they bought a shit ton of Bitcoin and Monero?
How cool would it be if we just ignored them and just continued to go out of business and let them have their little weird tiffs? Like, what if we just kept going?
You mean
with the economy?
You mean the them,
what
or
if,
the?
What if literally the citizens of all the countries impacted just kept trading? That I think is the interesting what if we are facing with crypto.
Yeah, you might not be able to do it with physical items, but with information you can.
Maybe not. Like, money talks, though.
Yeah,
I would go so far as to say now that I don't think we can have a good life, or the life that we wanted, or that our founding fathers envisioned, without blockchain technology and cryptocurrency anymore. I think it's actually become a necessity.
I agree.
Well, and if it's not a necessity yet for you, and you're hearing this, maybe by the time you come back to this in a couple of weeks, it'll prove fresh, and maybe give it a month, maybe give it a year. It will become important to you at some point.
And the most obvious is financial, especially with this, because that's what is under attack there. But the secondary, which is information and censorship, and those things are going to be just as valuable. So anyway, that was the topic stuff. So this week,
I did want to say that know how I said that with Patreon and GoFundMe, it was this instantaneous, like everyone knew, we can just go to crypto. As soon as they said we're taking the money, we're not doing what we're supposed to do.
It didn't used to be like that.
Right away. And then Ukraine came out and said, hey, we're trying to raise money. Here's our crypto accounts. It was they didn't even try anything.
I don't know if you guys had this. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you.
I'm pulling a Dave. I lost my train of thought.
Shoot, I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
Well, I can tell you, you'll recover it. You'll recover it. I can tell you, I don't know if you guys had this in the early days of crypto. Trying, you do what you do to get adoption. It's almost like like you're a, I don't know what you'd say. Like you end up wanting to proselytize to everyone. It's like, no, you need to know about this, right? And so on Reddit, someone would ask a question. It's like, oh, you could use Bitcoin and save money there, and or not have that issue that you might have with, control the banks or anything. And I would get called out as the stupidest person in the room for every single time, forever, right? And it's so bizarre to me, because it's like, how in the world does this not solve your problem?
Right. Well, and also I think the argument was a lot easier to make to people who lived in unstable regimes, right? Like early on, it was very super easy to explain the value of Bitcoin to anybody living, in a state afflicted with hyperinflation, or a state where their economy was being basically hollowed out from the inside out because the oil money stopped coming.
Yep.
So many examples of that. And now what we're all kind of starkly realizing is that we have been pretending to live in a stable world for a lot longer than we realized.
Yes.
And it's not so much that it's newly unstable, it's that we had just internalized that instability to the point where we couldn't see it anymore. And now that it's actually becoming quite apparent where the use cases fit, it all
also I think something that has changed, Greg, is that with COVID, we've seen all governments push way past the usual boundary lines of what their power level is.
Oh yeah,
they have all been drunk with power, and I think they've actually been surprised at how far they can go. So they never would have thought to do a lot of the things that they have done now to regular people. But I remember what I was going to say. So instantaneously, people went from, oh, we can use crypto. Oh, we can. It wasn't a thought now. Adoption has got to that level.
Yep.
I think if the 2020 election happened today, I think there would be a much bigger call for, hey, how can we, fix it? Oh, blockchain.
Yeah.
Oh, blockchain. People would turn to that a lot quicker now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was called out in 2016 in the first ever Dragonchain interview. Don't watch it. It's horrible. As why would you ever use blockchain for voting? That doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you ever it's like, dude, it's like people, it takes a while, but
well, there's so many great ideas, and I think that actually that's probably not a bad segue into the question.
Yes, really, yes. So, and by the way,
so many great ideas that I've read today.
I didn't say Dave is out; he wasn't feeling well. I didn't say it earlier. So, all right. So right after this, we'll go straight to the questions. Right? Okay. Right after this.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.
That's a few years old now. Okay, right to the question. So, adding to our quality of life. It's a very broad subject, right?
Yep. Real quick, I wanted to shout out to JP12X. Yes, Andrew Yang is still talking blockchain sometimes. He was at ETH Denver and appeared in person and did all that fun stuff.
He's going to be at Blockchain 2022 also.
It was actually a surprise to see him, because I didn't expect him to show up to those events.
I still think he's controlled. I did think pushing it, the two. And by the way, I am surprised, because we had when we did Blockchain Seattle, we had a group. They were really nice people, but they came in talking about a project to basically do what do you call it? When you just get money. What's it called? The working wage. What is the actual
living wage?
Living wage. Well, it's whatever Andrew Yang calls it, right?
His freedom dividend. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess. All right.
That's the UBI plan.
UBI.
Essentially,
UBI. Yeah.
Well, you don't call it UBI in Yang speak, but
really, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You would call it the freedom dividend.
I just always think of those things as, and maybe it's me. It's like you set up a fake market. You're not any better than what we already have today, but whatever. That's a political thing.
Yeah. I actually really like the idea though of a legit dividend on what they don't spend of tax money. If it was just
why not tax why not tax it then? First of all, get rid of the freaking income tax, unconstitutional. Second, just get it all from excise taxes like they used to.
Incentivize.
And then third, reduce the freaking size of the government. Solved. So it's like there's 3 freaking things you could do.
Like if we can convince them that if they spend less, we'll high five them as we get directly.
Here's the funny thing that we have to discuss this as if we have to convince them. I mean, who the fuck is them? This was this craziest thing in the world, right? Who's them that we're going to convince? Anyway, but it's true. It's true. Anyway, all right. So first question, Josh O. Your thoughts on blockchain and real estate: faster, cheaper, secure transaction, money saved by buyer, etc., etc. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think especially utilizing NFTs for, land ownership, which once again, we would always say, it's not that important in Western countries, but
yes,
it is, man. I mean, if you really think about it, the United States outlawed gold. People, it's like some kind of trauma that people try to forget. That happened, that literally happened in the United States. So, when it comes to some kind of bailout or whatever that is, where the government's building a road, they can just take your land, which was like, the worst thing ever that was like so crazy when I was a child. That was literally like the worst thing the government could do. And now it's, just.
Yep. Apparently that is something to do with Satoshi's supposed fictional birth date it was related. Now I've heard this. I don't know if this is true, right? That April 5th was the day in 1933 that the gold band happened, and 1971 was when the gold, and that's my birthday. Both, so it was like he was. Anyway, it was funny.
Cool.
That one way or another.
You're Satoshi, dude. We know you're Satoshi. Yeah, part of
right.
It.
The interesting thing about that too is that.
Did y'all see how nervous he got when I said that? Stop. I hope everyone saw how nervous Joe got when I said that.
Yeah. The NFT, as you said, anytime you can see a market pop up, and you hear on the I don't listen to the radio much, but either on Sirius XM or something like this, right? And you hear it's like, oh, if you have a house, you need title insurance. Like what? Like wait a minute, this can't be real. And I remember hearing this years ago, and I'm like, that's BS. They're selling something to old people that don't know any better. Anytime that something like that happens, it's because, this is another way to make money. So we'll let this be a loose security situation handling the titles, and then we'll make money over here selling title insurance. And the whole goddamn stupid thing about it is the technology already exists to not need to do any of that shit and to have full security in your freaking hands. And that's the same thing, by the way, with credit cards. The fact that you have a 16-digit credit card number in this day and age, that those companies that could very well, even if they don't use blockchain, they could at least use public key cryptography. It's like, you have to have the private key on this card, and if you could have the freaking public key all you want, you can't spend my money.
Right, but the problem isn't that; it's that fraud prevention fraud prevention insurance is still a huge industry that gives you better rates the more subscribers you have, right? So who really wants to get rid of credit card fraud?
And the same thing
when that's what keeps their premiums low.
Yep, and the credit companies, the fact that the reporting is so often absolutely wrong, and that you have to use snail mail to correct it, and you have to know what you're doing to correct it, and you have to be consistent and keep on it, even though that's a cost to the consumer, even though, and this is all regular. We do this to protect the consumer. The fact that the SEC requires you to have $2 million in order to be an accredited investor, and by the way, they're wanting to make it 20 million. Why? Because the crypto people are all rich now. So they can't be accredited. You have to have 20 million. You have to be a really good trader now. And it's all set up on purpose. So anytime they have that,
show me somebody who is out to with the stated purpose, I guess, of protecting people from making bad decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'll point out somebody who is just gatekeeping some power.
Can I say something? I think this is an important point. That all this time, it's always like, as a blockchain company, you're always looking for people who need to use it. And the issue is typically well, we really want to do this, but we're going to do a pilot program inside this little place here because the broader market isn't ready for it, or maybe we can't get the regulators to understand it enough yet. But if we prove it over here where we know the right people, it'll work. it just seems like it is a very slow process, but it just seems like if you took the other tack and said, you know what, those rules are there, we're going to follow those rules as they are. They're in place. I live here. I have to follow those rules, or else they'll do whatever they're going to find me or whatever. So I'm going to follow those rules. But on the things that don't exist yet, don't try to fit them in to those existing systems. I mean, I don't know how you would do it because I don't understand property titles and all that. I don't understand all the legal around it. But imagine if you could just wrap it with something and then, okay, I'm going to trade the NFT. So I'm literally going to sell you the NFT. You own the house, right? Maybe the NFT owns an LLC that owns a house. Maybe, I don't know. But the further you can get away, and I used to try to explain it to people as if it was just a parallel universe where you might have a DAO that follows its own goddamn rules that are laid out. And they happen to be able to affect this universe, right? Anyway, I think that's important.
The interesting thing to me about it is what it does to some really basic constructs of property law. Like, are you guys familiar with the idea of adverse possession?
No.
Okay, so in adverse possession, you literally just make it open and obvious that you're taking some property, maybe adjacent to yours. So you start mowing that lawn and you build the fence out a little further, and you do that adversely for a long enough period of time, that land becomes yours under current U.S. law in like all of the jurisdictions. You can literally just be a land pirate and slowly accrete property to yourself just by being kind of a dick. And the problem is people don't realize it impacts the title. But if you had to, in order to adversely possess something, register an open and notorious claim over some properties already on another deed, like imagine having to commit that to the chain. You would basically end sort of this adverse possession piracy risk.
Right.
My fence line,
kind of interesting.
Like years and years ago, I bought my parents' house from them, and when we put the fence in, they came in a foot, so that there would be an easement on the other side. So basically, we owned like a foot of the neighbor's yard. So we could always put the weed whacker over there, and just whatever that was ours. And I was looking at getting a new fence. And I was telling the guy, there's a foot easement here. It's like, it's a decent amount of property. I want to put it out more. He's like, oh, no, you can't do that, dude. That's their yard. You lost that. I'm like, what are you talking about? After, so many years, the fence line becomes the property line. And I was like, no, there's a survey and it's like, doesn't matter. It's been like, 15 years.
No, contestable.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so at the middle of the night, I can just pull the fence out. And then it would go by the, and he's like, well, I'm not telling you to do that, but if there was no fence, then I guess we'd have to go with the survey from years and years ago.
See, that's the problem with lawyers. That's the problem with freaking people who just live by it's like, them's the rules. Mm-hmm. Those people are the worst. They're probably they're not the worst. Politicians, lawyers, accountants, and then those people. Okay, make my list.
People that follow them.
I think what you're really railing against is sort of like the bureaucratic abuse of the letter of the law.
Yeah. Yes. If you're gonna have a letter of the law, freaking well follow it, right? If the survey is the survey and this is your plot of land, that should damn well be followed. And yes, someone could contest it. They could say, well, I've been mowing that for 10 years. And it's like, well, okay, here's some gas money, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, what's your mower height setting? Prepare to admit that to the court's record. Like,
and that's why blockchain can be miraculous with because the other side of the title fraud that I don't, and again, I'm not an expert at this, but is that I have been told that if your bank holds that, if you're still paying the mortgage, you don't have anything to worry about because the bank's going to freaking well protect it. Why? Because it's probably them who are dealing with whoever's stealing them. But
unless, of course, you're from some war-torn republic that has warlords and they can bribe the office to change it to whatever they want it to say, or like let's say something like that gets rolled out to be used against people who funded freedom convoys.
Essentially, it shouldn't matter if I own it or the bank owns it. It should be just as protected.
In all fairness,
you're gonna have a registry.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Dukes of Hazzard, but you can have counties where they're like warlords and you can just bribe a commissioner or someone and get stuff done.
I mean, there are whole cartels that can literally own small towns if they just organize a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happens more often than we'd all like to believe.
Yeah.
And Jose, you're definitely right. But it usually is in history a crisis or a catastrophe that brings people together, and that is like the mother of invention. So it's sad, but if it's literally like we're saying, that's what it's designed for. So people had to have the issue to see the solution for the solution that it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's a really important observation to make, nonetheless. Like, I think stating that overtly, even though it is kind of ringing in all of our ears, probably, that's something that, if not, needs to be said, so people who don't want to hear it have to, or whether it's more of a rallying cry. I think that it makes a hell of a lot of sense to say it out loud. So I definitely appreciate your sentiment. I'm glad you brought it up.
Cool. Let's go next one. That was good. I mean, and by the way, that it literally would solve that problem with property if it was whether it's an NFT or not. If it's on chain, and if you have a known owner with a key, it's and you can even solve the thing for normies. Where I was like, what if grandma doesn't know how to hold? You can handle all that, but it would still have, it would require fraud from grandma's own lawyer, to allow the property to pass with where it shouldn't. So,
another neat side of it too really would be like some of the smart contract automation you could do.
Yes.
In terms of charitable gifts and reversions and all these little things that affect deeds.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff that happens to it because the court system just has to plug the logic in.
Yep.
And that system could literally be programmed for the most part.
Yep. Even all the fraud.
It wouldn't be like people would be missing out on an opportunity.
All the title companies don't want it because they make, that's where they make, I don't know. There's a lot of people that don't want it for various reasons, but for me, I think there should be some enterprising young title company should come up and put together a startup, and they would be, it's the software eating the world thing, but in this case it'd be blockchain, that they would take the entire market, So anyway,
I mean, at least they get one government contract at a time and make the world a little bit better every time it moved to a new one.
It's a different way to look at it. Yes, it's true. Okay, Reddit Destroyer, which is probably the best username on Den. Reddit Destroyer. What information can blockchain have that can track that would help us better monitor our health? There's some danger here, right?
Well, it's the cool thing about it is it could have any data that you can put in a database, right? Like, if you can track it in a database of any sort, you can put it on a blockchain. The question I think that you want to really drive out with this is, what can it do in terms of the double-edged sword of medical information, right? Like, because there's useful to know, and then there's private, and the two have pretty heavy overlap right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already the MIT Medical Information Bureau that has all that stuff. And people don't even know it exists. So to be able to just own that, to own your information and to know when insurance companies or corporations are looking at that information.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but Dragonchain has some useful things to say about this very specifically. In terms of utilizing information that you don't necessarily want public, but still vetting it against the public.
Right.
Chain.
And it's the most interesting thing, and this is how, this is, if you just look at it as software, this type of stuff is always super interesting to me, because you can say, okay, you have all these different considerations, different contexts. You have the user, you have the doctor, you have the whatever the provider, bigger, this hospital, the clinic, whatever else. You have the government, right? So you have all these different players, and so some of them require some things legitimately. Some of them have some things that they probably shouldn't. some of the data is used in ways that it shouldn't be used, and the people wouldn't want it to be used. And some of the regulations, like HIPAA and things like that, when you talk to people in that industry, they're like, well, it's not really followed. I mean, it's followed, and you have to comply with it at a system level, but there aren't really fines or anything. Or at least that's what I've understood. So anyway, the way to think of it is, if you could segregate all your information, these CAT scans versus things that you might fill out on a form that you wouldn't, want just anybody to see, history, things that could infect your insurance, stuff like that. That the beauty is, a system can be built that would let the healthcare provider, the healthcare systems hold some of the info that you would never want. You aren't going to want to hold your CAT scan files at your house, right? But you might want to hold the form that you fill out every time you go to the clinic, saying, okay, I have a history of whatever.
Right. Or maybe you do want your CAT scans too. I mean, that's even possible, right?
You could, but it's the fact that it's flexible. But
yeah, exactly.
Even in the case where the healthcare provider is holding your information, in my opinion, it should be wrapped with encrypted, definitely air gapped, definitely protected from ransomware attacks, things like that, because that's the big thing. But the main point is, if you wrap it with a smart contract, so that anytime someone accesses it, it has to be a credentials-based access. It has to be, hey, I'm sitting with Joe in here, and I need to look at his data from this period and this type of data. And it could potentially even come back to me and say, hey, is Dr. Smith, he's like, yes.
Right.
Boom. Okay, he has access. That's beautiful. In the cases where let's say I'm passed out and I'm on a freaking stretcher, and it's like, hey, I need to see Joe's history, see if he's has any allergies, and you can say, well, wait, who is this? And it's like, I'm a credentialed emergency provider. Boom, I get in. But the beauty now is, when I wake up, I can see who accessed it, and it's like, oh, that was legitimate. Versus, oh, it was some X that accessed
well, it can
my
be
medical
partially
record.
permission too, right? So like,
yes.
If they need to check your medical allergies, they can just check your medical allergies. They don't have to see your entire family history.
Right. And that's the beauty. Again, I'm not a healthcare expert, but the fact is, you can structure it literally, and obviously you can structure a system on blockchain to follow any of the existing rules. Mm-hmm. And you can also make sure that the rules are actually followed, and you can add things to them, like, say, and we've talked to some places about this, and we almost got a few through, but I think it's still a little bit too early, is things like when you talk to healthcare providers, the fact that some of the big issues, or the most important issues with mm-hmm. life, are when there's a mistake made, because mistakes are made. People don't get enough sleep. They misread something. And, typically they have, okay, the doctor has to prescribe whatever, maybe a specialist, and then the nurse said, but at some point they might think, wait a minute, that dosage is wrong, or that's not the right drug. And the beauty would be, you could plug in, number one, for one thing, it would be all provable. You would know exactly where the mistake was made. And you could also put in then, machine learning algorithms that wouldn't be scary, because they would be, hey, I can't do anything, I can just stop stuff, right? And they would basically say, this is out of the range for this patient, please recheck it. And, you would save lives that way. Very simple. And if you didn't save lives, the family would know where the mistake was, and you would be able to pinpoint it. I think insurance companies would like it. I don't know. There's the thing, it should improve the issue with insurance payouts, right? I mean, it literally should make it more efficient.
At the very least, make it more transparent.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
So, anyway.
You will certainly be able to tell, for instance, which company is taking money from your visit, and how that circuits back around to the doctor as well.
Right.
Which,
right.
Yeah. God, that is a thing that more people should know. And right now it's limited to a very small set of professionals who use the software that does that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, the other thing too about that's really neat is you can revoke permission altogether at any point in a well-designed system. Now, keep in mind, you could technically have this in a non-blockchain system as well. And some of it's going to cross non-blockchain integrations, even if it were implemented in blockchain.
We're actually talking about having increased authority and power over your medical stuff right now. And this time is a very odd thing to talk about.
Yep. Okay. You have a next question?
Sure.
Next question from Elon Tusk. Question. Hi, can we utilize blockchain technology to increase our mental health and wellness? What do you guys think?
Just right off the cuff, I would say setting aside all specific applications, that having money that is independently yours in your control, that seems to appreciate and value the way that this has, is its own mental health and wellness boom of its own. So like, whether or not it does anything unique for this, it's already kind of ahead.
It's self-control. I will say that this wasn't necessarily a mental health thing, but nowadays it would probably be that when I first understood Bitcoin, and I did a little bit of mining, I barely got any, but then I went and bought some on Mt. Gox, and the moment that I sent it to my wallet on my laptop, as simple as that is, was mind-blowing to me, because it's like, this is the first time in my life I've actually controlled my own money. It was so weird, right? That was strange. Anyway,
no, it's true. It's a trip.
I think the
still
control
pretty damn amazing
in a world that we have so little control over would definitely benefit your mental health.
Yes, that's a huge thing, because people don't historically typically have control. You have to hope that your rulers aren't tyrants. I'm living here in Washington State, and that's one of the big reasons we're looking to move, because I don't know what this guy's going to do next, and the fact that he thinks that he can keep emergency powers and what do you say? I mean, we have a little kid, and I don't want our kid to be vaccinated for COVID, because it's not tested enough, right? And I think that should be a choice. And the fact that they're gonna, they really are pushing to get them all. So we're like, okay, we need to.
You're talking about the shadow elite that nobody knows who they are, and how they're talking about taking away everyone's AR-15 here, but just passing them out in the streets to everyone over there. I think that there's a mindset that they don't take into account. It's policy, but there's also a mindset, and we can see it here in the United States, where you won't really mess with Texas, but you'll mess with other states. Like, there's things that they could get away with in Washington State that they couldn't get away with here in Texas. Mm-hmm. People will literally just, well, it's time to die. Let's see how many of y'all I can take with me. And it's just the way it is. Yeah. Whereas, people in general don't think that way in a lot of other states. But there's certain states where, freedom is more important. Like, it's not even a thought. With Ukraine.
Well, every state has a certain character to it. Yeah. Like, I would say Kansas is a lot like Texas, but probably less willing to die in hills.
Yeah, it's just a measure.
We're looking for hills. We're like, well, that's
right, exactly. That's a mound. So it's one of the reasons I love Texas so much.
Let's go. We're gonna die on that hill. It's a mound. All right, whatever.
Yep. Oh, and I should say, because I had to, I should say about mental health. I mean, we have a partnership with a group called Universal Minds, and it's a big project. They have a very big vision. They're trying to do a lot of stuff with, but they have a UBI component, and they have a component where it's literally tied to mental health improvement, where they're working on various different interesting ways to help people that might have issues, right? So and they're using blockchain to do that, to track it and to reward and to do everything else. So that's something there, and there's tons you could do.
Joe, that's a really important point, I think, too, because like when it comes to mental health in particular, one of the biggest things still is getting people to feel comfortable talking about it, and talking about it in a context that is not loaded up with a whole bunch of subjective biases that we have towards the mentally infirm that are just sort of leftovers from a time when we understood less. And the fact that we can have this conversation about it with respect to crypto means that there's money behind it, right? Like there's real power there, but it's also a great way to start a conversation. Like anything from NFT art specifically auctioned off to fund something mental health or awareness related. Is in and of itself helpful.
How they used to treat people who had even issues you wouldn't think that's not an issue. It's pretty crazy stuff, and it wasn't even that long ago. So we made some good improvements there as humans. But anyway, hopefully, I know blockchain can play a part there, whether it's for the privacy side or whether it's for the. I even think that there's something to be said about, and you could apply this to homeless or any other issues that we have as a society, that blockchain can serve a part, because it is the one system that I could say has the ability to transparently provide a merit-based or a behavior-based reward or action. That is, if you've been lied to your entire life, and therefore you now have problems, and you're lied to by family, government, whatever else, that this could be one thing that you say, you know what, I don't give a shit about any of that. If I do this, I can live, and I can live a normal life, right? You can't really say that with homeless programs in various cities. It's like, oh, well, you can have a crack pipe. And it's like, what if I don't want a crack pipe? I want my value to have, or my life to have value, right? I don't know. Anyway,
sorry, all I can do is a crack pipe.
Yeah,
that's another meme with the from Paul.
Next question.
I got something to say on this mental health thing, though.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because it's a kind of a special area of medicine, because it's not really just medicine. So if you go to a psychologist or a therapist, you're telling them, literally the most private stuff. Especially if you have issues, you're giving someone, these are like your biggest weaknesses and your ways that you could be attacked or even controlled. And if that person did something wrong, let's say they did something appropriate, they wanted to date you, or something where you stopped going to them, that person still has all that information. They may not be a trustworthy person. When you walk in there, you don't know them, and you have to start off just giving them total trust. If everything that was recorded was put just on the blockchain and you controlled it, and they had no access to it until you went in, that would be monumental. And then if you did leave that person and go to another therapist, they can unlock it and have everything. You don't have to rehash everything. You don't have to go through everything.
Yep.
You can read, it's your information and you control it, and that person doesn't have it. They don't have it to do something nefarious, but they also don't have it to lose it and to have someone else find out about it.
Yep.
It also probably makes it so that the people who receive information later about how a course of treatment went, they wouldn't be in the dark about where maybe things weren't done as well. So maybe more professional accountability as well.
There's a new Del Toro movie I watched the other week, and Bradley Cooper is like a fake mentalist, but he literally teams up with this nefarious psychologist that has records on all the elite powerful people in Chicago, and she just feeds him little bits of information, and he goes with that. So when you think about the nefariousness of that, it's a scary thought, and to be able to control and hold and own all of that information, where it's not just in some psychiatrist's file or in their computer.
Yep.
Big deal.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yes. And if you watch Billions, that's the exact case where the husband pulls it off the wife's laptop, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that stuff happens. Okay. Jacob Wayne, what specific blockchain platform do you currently feel adds the most value to your life? Can be work related or personal. That's a very personal question, I think. Mm-hmm. The most value by measure, by dollar measure. Yeah. I have more Ethereum than I have Bitcoin.
I would think you would say Dragonchain, Joe, but okay.
Well, no, I'm not gonna. That's obvious for me, right? But it's like, and I'm not gonna get into Dragonchain pricing on this show because I don't know who's gonna pull it up later and yell at me. So, but yeah, I have more dragons than I have of Bitcoin also. But so I mean, how are you measuring it? Value. I don't think. I will say I don't think Bitcoin adds much value to my life. Unfortunately, I think it's lost a lot of its features that I really wanted to stick. And the bad thing is I think a lot of that was manipulated too. But it's still there, so it's good, and it's a good demonstration, so it's good. But anyway, what do you guys think?
It's hard for me to pick one because I mean, when I first got started in this, we were dead center focused on just building stuff for Ethereum, and over the course of the time that we built stuff, like we watched projects that we really admire, like people that we really admired building some of these projects, branch off and start what we now know as like Polygon, or what we now know as, and there used to be Matic, or pick and choose your favorite project. They probably started because something wasn't quite working right in one of the 2 or 3 chains that was up and running in 2017. And then then you add in all the weird community politics and the fact that you maybe not even know, like I didn't even know Joe was doing the thing over at Dragon all that much at all until I stumbled across them on the web and did my own research. Like there's just so many different people doing what essentially amounts to the same mission, but just with their own twist on it, that it's hard for me to say perfect. One or another is more influential, because it's really more like the whole thing, the whole movement.
I want to add something, but I want to hear what Sean says first.
I think currently I would say Binance Smart Chain. It's the main place for DeFi, and I think it's really starting to become the main place for NFTs and for GameFi, which I think GameFi is literally doing things that we always dreamed crypto could do, putting, giving people sovereignty over their money, but banking the unbanked and giving, these poor countries, elevating, the regular people. Regular people are playing games and tripling their income. They're not having to send their kids out to sell trinkets to, and souvenirs to tourists. They're not having to, put their children into like hard labor in like the fields. They have this other option where they can make more money just hanging out and playing games on their phone. So that's been an amazing revolution. But with DeFi and farming and also all of that, I mean, you could. It's not like I'm not being silly. You could be 16 years old, go to work at McDonald's for 1 year, and then retire with DeFi. You could farm, and you could make $2,000 to $3,000 a month with $15,000. You could literally work part time for 1 year, save 2/3 of your check, and then that's it. You can go to college, and you could study whatever you want. Literally, you don't have to worry about. Well. If you want, that's the thing. If you want to, I'm interested in this. I don't want to pick a career where money is the focal point.
Right. Who wants to do that?
But see, that's the thing.
That's supposed to work in the background.
I think blockchain is, and by the way, I want to revise and extend my earlier remarks, that blockchain is the universal. It's kind of like when I was a history major in school, that it was always the thing that, well, history, you can be interested in any subject, and there's going to be something about history there that's going to could be valuable, right? And I would say blockchain is very simple. It permeates everything if you allow it, if you think about it. It's essentially just software with scarcity and with transparency applied, right? And you can apply it literally to anything, and so that's why I'm here, right? And to say, I would say probably, and this is the side, because I was tongue in cheek about the value, Bitcoin versus Ethereum, and what I might hold, but the fact that is that it's gonna be hard to explain maybe very quickly, but I'm very OCD, right? So anytime I want to do something, like if I have a project, I can't just say start the project. I have to have the right thing in place to start the project on, because I know when I build the project, if I build it on a shit foundation, that it's not going to be what I'm actually envisioning, right? And so that's why Dragonchain is here, right? I think that's why Ethereum is there, because Vitalik saw the politics inside of Bitcoin, and he wanted to do some things inside of Bitcoin and realized, no, I'll just go do it myself. And that's a beautiful thing, to have the variety. A lot of people don't like that. Oh, we just have one coin. And it's like, yeah, give me a freaking break so you can control the dev team. No, we need variety. And so I would say between, and I don't know which is which, they're very similar, but DIN is a more powerful but eternal, that Dragonchain and DIN, but it's in the end, it's this tech, because being OCD, if I say a statement, I don't want there to be any chance that it gets just blown away, right? Number one. And I don't want it to not be on chain, right? So if I'm saying something important, I want to be able to go back and say, no, look, we said this here, right? This is exactly what we said, and we can prove it to you. And Bitcoin itself and Ethereum itself tells you that. And so I think quality life there that's probably, of all the blockchains, the one that I'm most attuned to. And it has a lot of the other effects too, that, we have a really good community in Eastern Europe, and a really good community that's in Venezuela, that have the issues with the monetary systems, that they're using this system, and it came in. You didn't have to buy a master node. They didn't have to buy anything. They literally were providing content and getting rewarded, right? And that's an amazing, crazy thing, right?
Yeah. Well, there's this. It just calls to mind this Harvard Business Review article, of all things. Like, every once in a while you open that and something good is in there, but don't hunt. This one piece though by Marco Iannosti and Kareem Lakhani that came out like years ago, and I feel like it might have been 2017. They did this piece about how blockchains are foundational technologies. They're going to not be reminiscent of any technology we've rolled out, because the last comparable one was really like the electricity grid. It's a thing that creeps on everything slowly and then all at once, but it has a lot of reach. So it's going to take a while to work it into the foundational structures of how we run the world. But once we get it up and running, it's going to transform it. It's just going to transform it in a way that we haven't transformed technology in a while. So we've kind of forgotten how it goes.
Yeah, it's been a while since people had something where they something came along that they didn't have before. And then, I mean, you can look at cell phones, but there's an argument whether, they're good or bad. But the phone itself, that was huge, and a lot of electricity. There's stories where people are like, I don't need to get this electricity. It's fine, but when the rest of you really didn't need electricity, but then when most things in your house would run on electricity, then it's not a thought of getting electricity. It's, hey, should I get this refrigerator to keep my food, better longer so that we don't get sick, and it has value and our food doesn't spoil. Those are the questions. So the thought of electricity isn't even there anymore. And I think that's how blockchain is going to kind of come about. It's just going to, like you said, permeate through everything to where it's just a necessity. Like electricity, everything runs on electricity. And then there's different kinds of ways to create electricity with, coal or solar or hydro. And I think that's how it's going to be. It's not a question of should blockchain be used for this application, but just which blockchain are we going to use?
Yeah. Or moreover, just like, how are we going to integrate what it means to have modern internet connectivity to a thing, to a service, to a product, right? It's going to fade into that background where it's almost going to feel like, we stopped using a POP3 mail server in intentional parlance a long time ago, but it's still there.
You guys remember setting up Trumpet WinSock and having the star username or star surname and star password And you had to prompt because the dial-up would prompt it, and you would have to put your password in. It's like, okay, now you have internet access. That stuff was, early internet feels extremely like early Bitcoin, and very ugly interfaces. You have to know what the hell you're doing. You have to be kind of a nerd techie to kind of get into it, but I think it's already advanced a little past that, right? We're probably still early Internet Explorer, Netscape.
Right. It's like we're past the beginning of the beginning, and we're now toward the middle of the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the end of the beginning, but
yeah.
Hey to Spain and Mexico in the chat. Awesome.
Yes, Daniel Guerrero. Okay. Next question. Right. I think we have time, right? Okay. Let's see here.
Oh, and by the way, I posted that Harvard Business Review article to anybody who wants to read it under Josh's question.
Sweet. First, this is the last question. Yeah. How can digital signatures change business and government systems? This is an interesting one. I'll start if you guys are okay. Our corporate counsel was the guy who argued. He's since retired. He was the guy who argued the DocuSign case in front of the Supreme Court to get the other form of not the form of digital signature that I care about, but the form of digital where it's literally a digital written signature approved for. Yes, you can use that as a contract, legitimate. It's legally good. This side of it is the radical value increase to that, to say, why are we still signing PDFs with little images when we could have a private key that I could sign, so that you could check with my public key? Why is that not there yet? I mean, it's so freaking ridiculous and obvious. Same as my credit card comment earlier. The tech's already there. It's freaking old, right? Why haven't they picked that up? Even if I were DocuSign, I would add that, number one. Okay, you have it's in, you can manage it in different ways, all the way to MetaMask. But even if you're a normie, we're still gonna have a key here that you're signing with, number one. And number two, we're also gonna put it on blockchain for good measure, right? Why? And I'll tell you why, because I sat with the CTO of DocuSign before Dragonchain was released as open source. I was still a Disney employee, and he was super interested in it. But he told us the biggest hurdle to them doing anything was the crypto world itself. And I'll tell you, and people are like, "Oh, you're blaming a good community." And it's like, no, literally, they told us that they did a little experiment. He's the CTO. It was a tech experiment with Ford at what was it, Money 20 something. I don't know what year it was. And they got nothing but troll from that. It was just and it's like, okay, I don't know if I love the use case, right? Fine. But the point is they're doing something tech, and they got so much trolling from it that they said, screw that. We're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, literally. So
that's I think what we're talking about, the permeation of it. It'll be companies
like
what's
interesting
that'll move to blockchain. Those existing things improving.
To me, the interesting thing about digital signatures is that signatures haven't been very secure ever, really.
Yeah.
If you notice that I just briefly changed my badge name to /s/GregLang@megatexas.eth. You print that on any form, you can presumably sign for anybody. It doesn't go beyond that in terms of what the law recognizes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, have you ever tried just drawing a smiley face when you sign the register? They don't care because it counts.
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to write like horrible things when you have to sign for your debit. Like, I'd be like, hey, you're a whore. I mean, just whatever. And everybody always went, my bank took it. There's no signature. Nobody cares. There's no security.
Yeah. The only thing is,
I literally would write, I'm not Sean Henderson. I wrote, I'm not Sean Henderson. Like, thank you. We just took your money.
But I think we're actually broaching the world for the first time where signatures can secure things.
Yeah.
Which is, a sea change in terms of fraud, right? Like, if you actually check to see that the person who is signing has in fact signed it, that's step one. But step two is saying, is this person the authorized signer? Can they sign this?
Well,
and that's something that crypto can do or the blockchains can do that no other tech really can.
Mm-hmm.
At least not very easily.
Checks, they never checked the signature. I mean, that's just so interesting. But with credit card, I mean, nobody writes checks anymore. Generally, you might if you're mailing something or having a bank write it for you or whatever. But credit cards, it's inexcusable that these multi-billion-dollar firms that are literally making money from that very purchase haven't said, you know what, we could probably make things more efficient and reduce fraud and help people's lives by, using blockchain, or in the very least using public key cryptography. Why don't they do that? And
interesting story. Yeah. We got some Walmart credit cards because ours expired, and I have one for each of my kids. So I gave them the cards, and then like a day or two later, I said, "Hey, did you sign the back of your card?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They had no idea. I'm like, "On the back of all your debit cards, there's this thing here. You're supposed to sign that says signature." They looked, "Oh, you are? Why?" And I said, "Well, because they're supposed to look at your signature and that to see if they match." And it literally says it's not valid until you sign it. I don't know anyone that signs the back of the cards anymore.
I do. They're all blurry. They're all
my kids had no idea that was a thing, and that was like, I remember, as a young adult where, they would look like, okay, but it was a legitimate security thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares.
I haven't thought about it in a minute, but I'm totally going to start writing megatexas.eth on the back of my cards.
Well, and the other side of it, if you do talk to, I've not spoken but a handful of people who understand the tech that's in the credit cards, and I don't understand all of it. They do now have PIN chips so that you can at least do something, but if you're going to go to that level and put the money into issuing new cards with essentially a private key on the goddamn card, why are you still allowing me to just enter the number in that I just got as a waiter when I took your card? I just put the extra receipt in my pocket and then go buy something with it.
And moreover, the more fraud they get, the lower their premiums are on the insurance they get for that. So
why have they not? And when I at Disney, we spoke to one group when we were talking to the payments, and it was interesting to me because they gave a laundry list of all these protocols and technologies that they use, and that they I know about this and this and this and this and this and this. How does what you guys are doing fit? And I'm like, it was so absurd. It's like, you're using all these legitimate cryptography algorithms. Why are you not doing the one thing that would really reduce fraud? It's crazy, and it's known tech. Why? There's a reason. I don't know it. So anyway, because it's not because typically I thought that's a big overhaul. You'd have to change all the readers. But they've already changed all the readers. They did put the money into the chip and pin stuff.
Yeah, no, they could. If I had to guess, it was probably friction at point of sale that they thought they could just do without.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you're going to check the pin with the signature from the card itself, why wouldn't you eliminate the 16-digit number and say, okay, here's a public key. You have to sign it with your private key, which is only on that damn card. That's it. That solves the whole damn thing. And it would
be really secure. But then what would all those people do that sell fraud insurance?
Yeah, that's probably the biggest reason. But the other side is the blockchain itself, and the fact that I remember early days just thinking through the process of checking out your groceries with Bitcoin, and the fact that is the grocery store going to be okay with letting you walk out before they get 6 verifications in an hour? It might depend on the amount, and I know even politically, if I remember right, that the politics of Bitcoin even eliminated the what do you call it? Shoot, I'm blanking on it. What do they call it before you get a block verification? But I can see your transaction was signed by your wallet, and the only thing I have to fear is if you go right next door and make a double spin before that block is out, right? That'd be my only risk. And I could, that in certain cases you can say, okay, you spent less than $1,000. I don't think you're going to go next door and try to put in something at a higher fee and screw me.
I think there's like a confirmation height security element that you can pay attention to that should get you outside of all, like that's what all the major exchanges do, right? With changing out of any currency that comes from a chain with low hashing power if it's proof of work, or with a small staking community that could hypothetically collude for chains that are proof of stake.
Here's the other thing. I brought this into W3C way the hell back, and they were interested in it, but it kind of went nowhere there. And so, and this directly to that, the fact that in a case it's a large purchase. If I'm buying a piece of land from you versus a coffee, right? It's a totally different thing. You might say, okay, it's a coffee. It's like, I hope you don't screw me over that $5. Shouldn't be $5. But if it's a couple $100,000, then it's like, okay, I'm not going to give you this title until I get 6 freaking blocks, right? That we work that into the Dragonchain side, where both we have the context level, but then also the measurable part of this whole world is that you can literally estimate the amount of money that was put into each block after a given transaction, and know, okay, in the odd chance that you are, really trying to screw me or really trying to trick me, I'm going to put enough money between that transaction and now before I, give you the car or whatever.
And the only downside to that, of course, is it's only partially effective in a world of smart contracts, right? Because what you can have is a very small amount of money at stake, but it also happens to delegate some authorities and set some permissions that you didn't intend to set if you're not reading what
that's
you're
a theory
authorizing.
World. Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's an element of that, I think, that also probably plays into pseudo technical solutions possible, but mostly knowing what you're signing.
Right. Excellent. Okay. Anything else? Man, that's the last question. We're at 126.
It worked out real well.
Cool. It was a lot of fun.
That was good. What is next week again? I don't have it open anymore. Next week is it layer 1?
We did layer 1 last week.
Last one. Geez, what is it? 1 second. I'll get it. I'll bring it up. Sorry. We have time, right?
Oh yeah.
39. Wait, this is 41. So, and by the way, I was reading to Ron Prep at the beginning. This is episode 41. Last week was 40. So entertainment. So NFTs will be, music NFTs, art NFTs, other things that would be entertainment.
Snoop just bought Def Jam and turned it into an NFT. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's permeating the industry. It's just like, we talked about.
Yep. Imagine taking all of that and saying, okay, we're gonna do all of the legal, traditional work up front, throw that into an entity, and now make the entity fully controlled by an NFT or by a DAO, and now transfers or other things don't follow those traditional rules. They're already all met. Well, now we're just working up here with either the governance side or now it's yours, right? That's going to be amazing. And I think that's coming faster than I expected. So it's pretty cool.
I think that's kind of been the carrying theme for me this whole year. Has just been being blown away by how fast everything keeps coming.
Yeah.
How much progress used to feel like a lot now feels like something that could happen in a week.
Yeah.
We've all talked about how fast crypto moves and blockchain moves, but we really have seen it. When I was talking about the GameFi, that was literally not a thing like a year ago. Yeah. It was such a tiny little thing, and now it's so massive. And the projects that I've been looking at the past few weeks are like really high quality. I mean, it's not like a blockchain game. It's like a cool game,
But and at the same time, there's also like this weird space too, where it doesn't even have to be like high production value. This is where I think it gets real exciting for anybody who's listening to this right now, who's like, I really want this to exist, but it doesn't. Because if you go out and you start working on that thing, there's just so much blue sky. Like something is just waiting to click, and it might be the thing you're thinking of maybe doing or not.
And by the way, and take this as something to think about, because I still think that this fast adoption And whether you're talking only solely in price with numbers, or whether you're talking in, the network, like how many people are involved or know about it and participating, is going to balloon like crazy because it's transparent and I guess you would normally say trustworthy, but it is whatever the word for I can actually believe that if I do this thing, this will be the effect. It doesn't matter who I know, right? It isn't, I'm not the son of some actor or famous person or senator. I can still do this. I'm going to get X. That it's the whole fact that it's a marketplace, and if you have scarcity and you have a marketplace and you have people, you're going to get places fast, and it's going to be way faster in traditional world. So
absolutely, and you'll be able to tell where reality is based on what's recorded on the chains, as opposed to having to take anybody's word for it.
Yep.
Like that's the really cool part. Like between GitHub repositories and block explorers, the world is your oyster.
Yep. Okay. So what do you guys have to have going on this week, coming up the next week?
I got a Crypto Rewinds tomorrow on Rice TVX. Ken Bozak's going to be on. Probably talking about shitcoin 2022. Next week on Crypto Rewind, I think Greg is our guest. I haven't asked him yet, but
yes, I'll happily join you.
I keep forgetting to, but so yeah. That's about it. We just had our primary here in Texas for the governorship. Maybe now I can have some of the people that were running on for an interview because they were so damn busy before. But that's about it. Check me out on the Twitters and the YouTube. I'm putting some of my old like memes and like goofy videos that I did a while ago. Because I don't know, I just found a file on my computer. I forgot I did them. So I tagged you all in a couple of them. Have you seen them? Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Dude.
Really? They're already up there.
Twitter hides stuff from me. I will say I've seen stuff that was ghosted before.
Dude,
They finally got rid of Crypto Beatles. They finally banned him. But it was that was a sad.
They did?
Yeah, that was. I mean, he was the biggest influencer, and then he started to turn more towards freedom and truth and that kind of stuff. And they shadowed
Maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's my problem. If I just talk number go up and forget forever posting anything about liberty or anything else, do you think I'll be better? Because
Dude, just set automatic notifications on everybody. Yeah. That's what I do. Like everybody that I run into that says something I want to see again, I just flag them for automatic notifications.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I mean,
it makes it noisy, but like it's worth it because you get to see.
I still can't believe that Assange is still sitting in prison.
Doesn't make sense. It's crazy.
It totally makes sense. It just makes a scary kind of sense. Like I don't think there's any coincidence that what's happening in the world right now is being done sort of on the foundation of sacrifice that Assange is being laid out for. Like this shit would not be happening.
Yeah.
That's the hypocrisy.
Journalism.
Free speech. Yeah. We have to do free speech and blah blah.
That's why I think we need a blockchain equivalent of WikiLeaks, where you have a provable way to do a dead man switch. And it doesn't exist right now. There are various things you can tie together, and WikiLeaks themselves have used the chain to do pretty proof of life and pretty cool things like that. But I think that's needed.
There's so much that
something
doing now that is just so blatant. I really wish I don't know, some titan or alien would just come in and smack the crap out of him. They still haven't released John's body to his family.
Really? Yeah. Is he? Yeah. Is he really dead? I mean, that's yeah.
Now that's a rumor that's starting, but
Well, here we can all hope anyway. Like, frankly, I'd rather that than anything else. I think that's probably the only thing that makes me think that it probably is too good to be true.
They were. I mean, they were trying to kill him in that prison. They were. They were doing everything.
That's what that's what prisons do, right? They try to kill the people in them.
You know, he was an old dude, and they were moving him like upstairs. His knees were giving out. He lost so much weight.
Really?
You know, and it.
Prisons are murder machines that do it by wasting and boredom.
It's a it was the guy from Pink Floyd said it. It's an execution in slow motion.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think they specialize in that type of stuff.
Yeah,
they being they, whoever they is. Okay,
pick your they, right?
Okay. Did you already give an update, Greg?
Oh, my update is well, first off, the usual. If you had an idea, or if you're still rolling around that idea, and you haven't started working on it yet, go build it. Like, just try it. You'll be surprised. If you don't make it with that idea, try to build the next one. I mean, the world literally needs you right now, and you might not even know it. And it could be like a game idea that you have that saves the world. Who fucking knows? All I know is, in the second part of my update, megatexas.eth is against the dumbest game ever invented, nuclear brinksmanship with nation states. It's a really fucking dumb game. We should probably stop fucking playing it right now, because theirs are pointed at us and ours are pointed at theirs, and it's really stupid. Like, nukes pointed at people again. The button is armed for the first time since the fucking 1980s, and everybody's acting like it's okay. This should not be okay.
We were talking about the how they underestimate people, and they think they're really smart. But what if Russia uses nukes? What if nukes are now on the table? Basically, that would kill the military-industrial complex.
What if somebody accidentally sets them off?
Well, I think if it's used in small cases, but it's on the table. So there's no tanks don't matter.
Yeah.
Your size of your army doesn't matter.
Well,
all that matters is if you push someone, you get nuked. That would kill the military-industrial complex.
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of really weird little intricacies there, but because they were always worried about the you would think a tactical nuke would be more humane because I'm not going to take out an entire city, but the problem is they were worried
they just lead to strategic nuke launches
more likely to be used, right? So that's an issue. I'll tell you, I think the worst, my biggest fear is not that you're going to have some massive war games scenario that the entire world is lit up. I think the scariest thing is what you might call a false flag, that it would be extremely easy for anybody in a rogue state, whatever you would call a terrorist group, or one of the intel agencies of the countries that are at play or any other, setting off a nuke somewhere that they can blame on somebody, whether it's in Russia to blame on Ukraine or in Ukraine to blame on Russia. And then everything changes. And guess what? In the current situation, there would be no place for someone to say, wait, let's hold off. Let's make sure that that's real. That's not going to happen. It's going to be nope. Yeah, and you're a traitor if you say anything. And that's
what we tend to forget. What we tend to forget is how close we've come in the past. There are some really great articles out there about like literally how one guy saved the planet from nuclear holocaust.
Today, I think. Yeah,
I did. I posted one today.
Was that the Russian who saw?
The Russian guy who basically
said, nah.
He stood up to his fellow commanders in a basically like a nuclear armed submarine off the coast of the United States way back when. They were going to target some of our ships, and if they'd hit them with that tactical nuke, it just would have been the button. It would have, and these people were ready to do it just because they hadn't heard from home base in a while. Yep. One dude stood up and said, "Nope, we're not going to go ahead and read that into this. Please stand down." They did, but literally just like one submarine captain disagreed with another, and that was the thing that saved the world that time.
And his name was Sean Connery.
It's fucking nuts, really. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we haven't even finished building the asteroid deflector, and we're like spinning up old existential risks. What the fuck, humanity? Please.
Yeah,
it's weird how I'm reliving my childhood now, man. It's strange. Or I was thinking you could set off a nuke in West Texas, sparsely populated, but all the oil fields. That would be massive. That would hurt so bad. Also, it's Texas, so you kill two birds with one stone when it comes to the U.S. government. It would hurt someone who stands up to him. But yeah, it's a scary thought, man.
So, just trying to remind everybody that yes, they're armed and they still do what they did in the 80s.
Yep. Okay. For my update, I just posted it the other day, maybe 2 days ago, that we were invited to join that Cointelegraph Circle, the Innovation Circle thing, and surprised that they reached out to me. But I saw it as a pretty good opportunity because they have, I guess, so you can kind of understand the structure. So if anybody has any ideas on how we can even leverage this, because in my mind, okay, first of all, notably honorable thing to do for one of the press publications in our industry to say, hey, let's bring together ideas and not worry as much about paid articles, because I think a lot of them do that. So that was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So they have a thing where they will ask questions, and I don't know how it will be used yet, but the understanding I have is that, what do you think is the next thing in 2022 that people should be watching for, that they'll use in articles if you give an interesting answer. So I'm incentivized to give either, and I don't know yet, is a controversial answer or some other type of answer more likely to get used. I don't know. But then there's also a method to throw in with obvious rules. You can't shill your project or anything else, but to throw in articles. And so we have one up there. It's going through editorial. Really good response so far. Interesting stuff. It's about DAOs and behavior. My big thing, right? So watch for that. That's cool. Hopefully it'll come out this week or next. I don't know. Cool. And then I guess it'd probably be more likely next week. Hopefully it comes out next week and not like on a Saturday or something. I don't know what their timeline is. Then we have a couple other projects that we haven't announced yet, but are, they're super exciting. So I mean, I'm at least some of the things we're working on, whether it's DIN or these other unannounced projects. This is, in my opinion, the most exciting time so far. There's a lot of stress because there's so much to do, but like you guys said, it's kind of like we're on the cusp of this actually opening up and people saying, normal people saying, oh, I get it. I have this idea, or we should plug it into this system because I manage this system over here. That's what's needed, and I think it's coming. So, and what that means for number go up. I mean, you could read whatever you want into it. I think it means radical things for that, but you have to have the fundamentals, in my opinion, before you can have a long-standing. Because Bitcoin has the fundamentals, Ethereum has the fundamentals. That's why they have a long-standing market cap number. Right?
And man, from what I saw at ETH Denver, it's not just Ethereum anymore. It's everywhere. The ecosystem has blossomed out. So it's like there's so much potential. It's not even funny. It's actually kind of fucking jarring and amazing. Like I watched that conference be the last time it was in person, like 2,500 people max. 20,000 people were at this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Like it's a phenomenon.
How long is the drive from Kansas City to Denver?
About 8 hours, 8.5 hours, roughly.
That's not bad. It's on 70. It's all fast, right? You can.
Yeah, until you get to that dead zone.
Is there? Okay.
Joe, are you drinking 2 coffees there?
I have a coffee with the World Blockchain Roundtable logo on it, and it's gone. I had a water that I completely with the Dragon family crest on it.
3. Okay.
Right. And then I have the JoJo mug with another water. So these both were lemon waters, but I'm still trying to get over the cough thing.
Yeah, I just noticed the different cups. I used to do that when I would do interviews. I had like 9 cups. Nobody ever caught it. I mean, I just drink out of like a chalice. And weird cups, man.
Yeah, a German. What's the
Stein?
Stein, yeah.
Yeah, I had so many, and one person caught it. I remember I was talking to John, who's like just a different sip, and like my kids, and I thought it was hilarious. But like one person was like, Told you Sean drinking like 20 different cups in that interview?
I used to like drink from a taller, like but it was always kind of a weird thing because if it's glass, then you can see what's in it. And you think, well, what the hell's he drinking, right? And then if it's I don't know, just all types of weird things. And it's like, oh, the mugs are good because they, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I'm either never drinking what I always looks like I'm drinking, or I'm always drinking it. I'm not sure which one.
You're always drinking monsters, man.
Or is it?
Yes.
I just want to say, everyone love each other.
Yes.
Love, man. Put more love out there. But always stand up for your friends, and don't let people push you around, man. Don't let push your friends around.
Yep. It's man. Sean should close out every one of these.
That's just what I've been thinking.
That's a damn good point.
Yep. No, in the end, that's the thing. And there's some really weird some videos that I've watched that I've got from 4chan that were surprisingly mind opening in a couple of ways, and usually they tend to be ignore that shit. Just it's all about love. It's all about the people and family and everything else. So in the end, that you have to just pay attention to that. Everything will be better.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be. It's not a weak thing either. It's not some passive, ideal.
No,
it's legitimately what drives this.
Yeah.
It's
like parenting. It's
probably should be said more often.
And by the way, I think totally. I think the issue in the world is that they have found a way to separate, and it's like if you can find common ground with pretty much anybody on Earth, mostly, right? So.
If you're not, you should be following Russell Brand. He's
fantastic.
He delivers an awesome message, man.
I haven't, because I'll always keep. I've seen it's like and yet
he seems like the kind of guy we could actually get to come on the roundtable.
He's like an English Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He really is.
I think we should get him on the roundtable sometime in the future.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be good.
He's funny. So he would be with that. I'm jealous of that. I'd be insecure because I'm the funny guy. Okay, fine. We can have him on once, maybe.
He's gonna step on all your lines.
You're gonna replace me with Russell Brand.
Man, I didn't get to introduce Sean, everybody's friend. So that's the show, right? You guys will see you next week, and thanks for being on. Hopefully everybody's healthy again. I hope that. I hope that we can, get everybody on again, and Dave. I hope he's getting better. So anyway,
yeah. Ooh, I did one last thing I remembered. Cardinal opt out on testnet starts this week. So if you actually want to opt out of being moved over on testnets onto Cardinal, you have to go in and do it. That's for Rivet's Cardinal rollout for anybody who's playing along. So. Just wanted to throw that in. It's not, you don't have to do anything if you're happily using it already.
Nice. Perfect. And I think there are air raid sirens out there. I don't know why. Anyway, see you guys next week.
Take care, y'all.
Thanks.
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.